Hello, everybody. To everybody who is listening out there, I welcome you all to a very exciting session today evening. My name is Utsu Shukla, and we welcome you from the official page of Youthpedia. Quickly, my own background. I've been an entrepreneur, a public speaker for the last 10 years, and I'm absolutely excited to do a 1 hour live session with a very eminent personality with whom we all will learn a lot today about the complex world of finance industry. Now, growing up, like a lot of us, I have been personally extremely nervous the moment anybody used to talk about numbers and talk about mathematics. So today, when I say I'm absolutely excited, it may sound like an oxymoron, but to declutter this myriad and to make things very simpler, we have a very eminent personality with us who has spent decades in the financial industry and comes with a wealth of experience for the entire youth who is listening to us today to learn more about the finance industry, how the entire finance industry functions, how to move the financial needle, and he'll be taking a lot of questions on what are the things the youth of India can do to enter this financial industry. So we know that India's demographic dividend is very big, and there's a lot of potential that India holds. So we are absolutely excited to host this Facebook Live on the official page of Youthpedia. To quickly introduce the platform of Youthpedia, it is a platform designed to give direction to the students on their suitable career options choices. With the prime focus on youth upliftment, Youthpedia's mission is to become a main source of guidance for the youths today as they face a number of career options and a number of problems, changing from job situations to the uncertain market this pandemic has created, to the number of psychological issues that youth experiences on a day-to-day basis. And depending upon the different career choices that the youth of today has, one of the career choices that is there is the entire financial industry space. And to declutter that space, as I mentioned, I have an eminent personality by the name of Mr. S. Ravi. He's the founder chairman. He's the former chairman of Bombay Stock Exchange and the founding and managing partner of Ravi Rajan and Co. He's an associate member of Association and Certified Fraud Examiner CFE USA and is also registered as an insolvency resolution professional. Sir, we welcome you for today's live session.
Thank you.
So, in order to kickstart this session, sir, like I mentioned that this Youthpedia platform is focused on the youth. So, can we begin to start to declutter in terms of what is this financial industry all about? Can you, we have your insights on that to begin with?
So, first of all, thank you for inviting me. It's Utsav, and really thank you for calling me onto this. It is my pleasure. But before we go into the financial world, I have a comment to make. And that comment is that the youth of today they have many opportunities more than yesteryears. Today, they can choose many lines, many stream of aspirations which they can, right from being an entrepreneur, a stock analyst, equity analyst, an investor. Then they can be any field like risk management, a banker, a doctor. I do not know how many lines which was not available to yesteryear youth. So that is a very big sort of a advantage which this youth have. And what I see in trends is people who have skill sets must recognize what skill sets they have, and then be passionate to achieve and aspire and make whatever you desire, make it happen by hard work and be passionate about it. This is the first message that I feel. Irrespective of the line that you choose, you must be able to identify your skill sets and be passionate about what you do. Now, about the financial world, the ecosystem is large. So if you take a journey of 100 years and you take what it is today, the ecosystem has really encompassed everything, and it has sort of really become very specialized. You have the banks, you have the insurance companies, you have the pension, you have mutual fund, you have AIFs, you have NBFCs, you have many, and stock exchanges, of course. So even in the financial world, there are many streams which one can look at. And this ecosystem is going to grow. There are 12 public sector banks, 22 private sector banks, 45 foreign banks in India, and more than that, about 45 corresponding associations with India, foreign banks have. We have more than about uh, 60 to 70 relationships, global relationships in the banking system. And the deposit is about 90 trillion. So you can imagine the enormity of the whole banking system. In insurance company, again, with the opening out of insurance post liberalization, you have seen private insurance companies come in. You have the life insurance companies, you have general insurance, and the new class of health insurance companies, which have grown in the last 10 years. So the insurance industry has also grown. Then comes the pension. The pension, the NPS scheme itself caters to about 35 lakh crore AUM. Then we have the mutual fund industry, which is 19 mutual fund here, and with a 26 trillion sort of AUM, which is very big. And 19 mutual funds are sort of the very first 10 are doing very well, and they have grown in the last 4 years. You won't believe they have grown by 4 times in the last 10 years. So that is the strength that the mutual fund industry has. There are 10,000 NBFCs, of which about 100 to 150 are vibrant and doing well. Then we have 564 AIFs, which is alternate investment fund, where all equity plus debt, structured debt, they are investing. So the ecosystem in the Indian context has grown post liberalization, and this is this is a very large ecosystem. The stock markets also, there are two prime stock exchanges, that is BSE and NSE. And then we have a commodity exchange called MCX. So, and on all the ecosystem, there are 5 regulators. And the 5 regulators are basically RBI, SEBI. Then we have IRDA, which takes care of insurance companies, PFRDA, which takes care of pension. And then we have NHB, National Housing Bank, which takes care of the housing finance companies. So we have 5 regulators here. So the ecosystem is large, it's reasonably well regulated, and not that there are no issues, but there are issues, but they are very well regulated. Now coming to the stock exchange itself. Now I was the chairman of Bombay Stock Exchange, and I would like to just give you some history of it. But before that, I want to tell everybody how the ecosystem has changed in the last 100 years. The steam engine to the aeroplane, to the telephone, to the cell phone. It took 150 years to come to that level. And from cell phone to nanotechnology, just took 2 decades. So the growth has been very, very rapid. Similarly, if you look at the banking system, the traditional credit and deposit, which was there, now you see the ATMs, the kiosks, the mobile banking. So see, if you see the technology, what it has got for us, the speed at which the change is happening. So one must be cognizant of the fact that the speed at which the development is taking place, the youth must be tuned in. They must adapt to the change. The change is happening very fast. Now coming to the exchange space, BSE started in 1875 under a banyan tree. And today it has a market capitalization of 166. You see the growth over a period of time. When it started in 1875, it started under a banyan tree with no space, with no building. Then in 12 years later, they had an association of Memorandum of Association, or AOA. And then they went into this century. Then they had a clearing corporation by Bank of India in 2021. And in 2025, after 40 years or 35 years comes 40 years, comes the first contract for securities, Mumbai Securities Contract Act, which came in. Means after so many years, because the contracts had to be validated. Then we move further. Then we saw the corporatization. There is a Kanya committee which said, what you should do is the brokers are running the show and the brokers should get out of this. And what happened then, 1992, the regulator SEBI was formed, and the Kanya committee, in its wisdom, decided that the brokers who are running this should leave it to independent people for governance. So 2005, it was corporatized. Bombay Stock Exchange was corporatized. Then 2005, the first online trading happened in 2005. Then what happened is 2007, Deutsche Börse came in. It was fully corporatized with 5% stake in it. Then we saw a lot of developments, very hectic pace. The regulator came in and we moved far. And 2015, this became the fastest exchange in the world to transform itself and take the challenges, because by the time what had happened was there were a lot of regional stock exchanges which had come, and then the Kanya committee came, and then these regional stock exchanges came in and joined together to make an interconnected stock exchange, which did not work. So, and then NSE had come in 95, 97, year 95, 97. So there was a competition, and they were already in the demutualized manner. So BSE had to go through that period, a very tough period. 2011, they sort of stabilized. 2015, they became the fastest, let me tell you, the fastest platform in the world. 1/6 of a microsecond. That is the speed of any order that is placed. So that is the change that happened with Bombay Stock Exchange. That is the evolution that was there in the stock exchange. Then 2017, we created something called as a international exchange at Gift City, which was a tax-free zone, which was like a place, inland place like Singapore or something like a Dubai, where taxes, it was like an inland, outward, inland. That was what it was. Then we move on to 2017, first exchange to be listed in another rival stock exchange. So, and I was a board member, and I was the chairman at that time. After that, so then 2018 we come to commodities. We get into commodities. So there has been a continuous stream of innovation that has happened, and rejigging that has happened, and a continuous process that has happened in this journey of 145 years. Why I'm giving you this illustration is right from a banyan tree, and then I will tell you in lighter vein, when they started trading and this association was formed, which was called the Natives Stock and Stockbrokers Association. So in share and stockbroker and share association. So in this, what really happened was there was a fight between the cotton merchants and this for that particular space below the banyan tree. And you won't believe that this exchange had to transform itself, if you just as I mentioned, into screen trading. So first it was a secret trading, then it moved on to outcry, means shouting on the floor, and then it moved on to something called as screen-based trading. So all this transformation has happened. I'm just making you aware how the transformation has happened. It's happening in an exchange. Similarly, in the financial sector space also. So as I mentioned, ATM, anywhere banking, then kiosks and mobile banking, internet banking. So every step that has been insurance companies, similarly, you see today LIC, which was there, has totally become digital. You see the private sector people have come into insurance. So NBFCs, you see a lot of investment into NBFCs, and you see the size of the NBFCs, how much they have sort of increased. Similarly, AIFs, which were very, very small at one point of time, about 8 years or 10 years ago, and you see the AIFs have doubled, and they are quite successful, and they are becoming a big arm of investment for the sector. So I think there has been a radical change in the whole system. But one thing that I would like to tell, so having closely watched Bombay Stock Exchange and its transformation and the challenges, that, for example, I'll give you a few challenges. Now, there was World War One, two, then there was this 1970 oil crisis, then there was the Indo-Pak War, Indo-China War, and then we had the 1993 bomb blast, in which part of the building got damaged. So the Bombay Stock Exchange, and then it had competition. It was competition free to start with. Then the competition came in, and they had to change the business model. I must compliment the MD, present MD, to a great extent, Mr. Ashish Chauhan, for having really transformed and making it a very fine brand. Because what happened in the last 3-4 years, we have got into commodities, they've got into mutual fund distribution, they are getting into insurance distribution, they are starting an energy exchange. So this, you are not depending only on the thin uh, uh, commissions that we get on trading, but they are depending on their own business stream. I must tell you also one incident which will really be very interesting for all of you. It took, this iconic building took 12 years for construction. They did not have the funds. So Mr. Deepak Parekh's own means uncle, H.T. Parekh, he gave funds to build that building to a great extent. He funded it. So the brokers who ran those exchanges at that time had to struggle for the money, though they were personally well off, wealthy, but they this whole institution journey, if you see from 1875 to 2000 to 2020, if you take every 10 years, there has been a very big change. So I personally feel that, that this space is opened out, and I have just described the ecosystem prevailing in the country at this point of time.
Absolutely. From a banyan tree to a gigantic institution, sir, I think the last 10 minutes have been very insightful of the entire journey that you have slated. You gave us a lot of information in terms of NBFCs, in terms of mutual fund, just segmenting the entire financial industry. Though, sir, we'll try to segment it out so that the viewers can have more value from sort of each segment. My first question to you would be that how is technology changing the financial industry space? What has been the impact of it? Because you mentioned about the banyan tree, then you mentioned that how stock trading used to happen in a hush hush way. Then then the entire guru scene where people are shouting to each other, to now how fintech has been taking over. So, what is your view on the impact of technology on the financial institution space or the entire finance industry?
So Utsav, when I made the first statement, I said the rapid change that has happened. The last 100 years and the last 20 years, the change has been very fast. So that the pace of change has changed totally. Mm-hmm. And I can assure you, I can tell you very frankly that the next 5 years is going to be, the change is going to be very rapid. Blockchain technology will come in. Anywhere banking to mobile banking, you see, internet banking to mobile banking, it's visible before you. Today, see, let me tell you, technology is going to play a big role. Today, for example, there was a misuse by the brokers or some of the errant brokers when they sold their stocks of their clients. Okay, now today I can track my clients, my pledge of my share. If somebody moves my share, I can find out, because it is possible because of technology. Sure. Similarly, you see, you use your credit card, you will get a message on your mobile. Yeah. So, or you will get a message on your mail ID. So technology is going to have more information. Data analytics is going to be very important. Plus, technology is going to ride all of us. And see, and this 2020 has taught us to use technology in a more vibrant manner or a more frequent manner. So
Yeah.
the next 5 years, the change. And what is going to happen more importantly is the banking, insurance, pension, commodities, financial markets are all going to integrate into one thing.
Sure.
And that one thing is going to be, suppose I have 100 rupees, where all I have to put, it will all get integrated into one place because I have something called as a technology with me, available with me.
Perfect. So, thank you so much for that. Now, I have a question, which I think is a burning question for any a young person below the age of 25. Is that the technology, though, has been empowering us, but how to gain information or create a culture of investing in India? What would be your take on that? Considering my own example, that pandemic was the reason I sort of became a novice investor, because this is something that is not taught in schools in general, unless I see a lot of people from the financial background themselves are not a spendthrift, or they don't have the culture of investing. Even though it is widely available to us, we can buy mutual funds very easily. We can invest in the stock market relatively very easily right now, as per 10 or 15 years ago. But how to create the culture of investing in the youth of today? What would be your take on that?
So everybody has a limited amount of revenue,
Yeah.
and that revenue is visible. They have expenses which is visible. If they can take out 5% of whatever they are earning
Yeah.
and keep it aside for investment, that is the first saving culture that we need to bring. And I think that is the first step for any investment. The saving culture is most important.
Sure.
So what I'm seeing, the saving culture has sort of declined in the
Yeah.
last 5-10
Do
years.
you think it's the millennial impact? Is it the
Yeah, that is to
millennial
to an
generation?
extent, yes. But we need to inculcate the saving culture,
Yep.
because saving culture is going to take the youth forward.
Yep.
Because see, the burnout also of the youth is faster now.
Yep.
So because the career, if you see, after 45 or 50, they don't get a job. People don't get job today
Yep.
because youth, the energy the youth have, that cannot be given by any senior person.
Yep.
So they have experience, but the youth's energy cannot be sort of, we cannot get rid of it, or we cannot undermine it. So the saving culture is going to be very important. And also, very important is that if you are a novice, if you can't understand, go to a mutual fund,
Okay.
go to a financial advisor.
Okay.
And if you don't have, or otherwise do research. And that is why I strongly recommend everybody to go through financial literacy.
Yep.
Understand the do's and don'ts. Don't go for penny stocks. Don't go by somebody who says tip, buy this, buy that, because there are people who are alluring you to do something. Go on to traditional very good stocks which have given, do some data mining. Go
Yep.
back and see which stock has done well over a consistent period, which has a good brand. Go and invest there. You
Yep.
see also how much you can get dividend out of it. So
Yep.
I think the culture needs to be there, because but research back.
Yep.
Don't go by these tips and penny stock. So that is my first and foremost
Sir, Albert
advice.
Einstein also said that compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world,
Yeah.
and he was rightly so in that if you understand the concept of compounding, you will never be a poor man. So, sir, digging deep in this, can you share the insights in terms of what's the different variables to be considered for financial literacy? You mentioned about data mining. You mentioned about doing your research. Mutual fund is a safe bet, like you mentioned. But to gain financial literacy for a person of any age, because I think the lower middle class strata, once they reach the age of 35, if they don't have a culture of investing, they are more inclined towards keeping their money in the bank account, which gives them very low rate of interest. So, what are the different variables that should be considered for financial literacy?
So financial literacy, absolutely. First, you should know the market.
Okay.
For example, we should know the do's and do nots first of all straight away. Do you monitor your demat accounts? You do not sign slips and give it to them, to anybody. You don't pledge your shares. You don't work on borrowed money. So for example, people who work on borrowed money will have always a problem because they can't, their interest will be climbing up. Then research, for example, you take a research of the last 10 years and see which companies, which sector are doing well. There are sectors which are doing very, very well. So for example, in this, at this point of time, FMCG will do very well.
Yeah.
IT will do very well because
Yeah.
IT is the backbone of the whole economy today. If
Yeah.
you look at, then you will look at FMCG, because today FMCG is a very important aspect, healthcare. So I think the flavor of the year or a flavor of 2 years is very visible, and I think
Sure.
you should inculcate some discussion. You should attend seminars. You should talk to people and get into this, because that is the only way you can learn. And then start do dummy trading. Means you assume you have 5,000 rupees, just as
Yeah.
an example, and you trace it how you're doing in the next 2 months, what stock you have picked up, whether you're fine with it or you're not fine with it. And suppose you're not good with it, then redo your research and start working. Dummy
So do you
trading
think your own
is like a
personality
mock
comes
test.
into play when it comes to investing? Apologies, I'm interrupting you, but is it like, if let's say you are a flamboyant person, so your general tendency to buy stocks at will and bases your emotion. Do emotions come into play when you are investing from an investor psychology standpoint? How do you feel? How much does that impact on a person's ability to build a portfolio?
So every personality is different. Some people are speculative.
Yeah.
Some people have the ability to take absorb losses also. So some people do not have the ability to take losses.
Yeah.
Sorry. So it is a very, very individual trait, and one should understand their own trait. Suppose I'm conservative and I look at conservative stocks, I may not look at 30% return, but I will look at 10% return. I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
So the appetite, so the appetite is like just like food, how much everybody's appetite is different.
Yeah.
So it is similarly, this appetite is also different, and it's
Yeah.
a personality trait. And
Yeah.
also, you said flamboyance. Yes, somebody can be very speculative,
Yeah.
and they can get off with it once or twice, but
Yeah.
this speculation doesn't help.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because I see a lot of times people start blaming the game itself, the institution itself, if they burn their hands once. Because if they treat it as gambling, for example, the entire idea of investing, then of course they will burn their hands in the process. So, can you shed light on the difference of the concept between financial health and financial sustainability? What would be the difference of that? The financial health of an organization to the financial sustainability. Uh, how has that come into play? How can that be for any institution or for an individual?
So financial health is a status of a company. What is the health? Are the ratios holding good? Are the borrowers on? Are the track record good? Are they repaying the debts? Are they over leveraged, under leveraged? Are they reasonably well capitalized, etc., etc.? And financial sustainability is a thing which is little futuristic, because what happens is sustainability happens over a period of time. I may have sustained, I may have grown financially, I'll be fine today, but can I take there is a terminal value to every business. Let me
Yeah.
tell you this.
Yeah.
So the terminal value and the terminal factors. For example, let me give you something very practical. Now, the broker of yesteryears who did not have a terminal just vanished away because they did not come to screen based. So sustainability will disappear. Even they may have been having the wealth or the health, but they have not gone into the new gen. So what
Yeah.
happens? The adaptability compounded with futuristic outlook will make sustainability a factor. For
Sure.
example, your online trading today, online sales which happens, somebody just in this pandemic has just depended on after lockdown just to sell through the shops, but they have not, but they are fine and good, they are fine, they're healthy, but they have not adopted to the online. So can they sustain, can they move forward? That's a question mark. So
Absolutely.
sustainability is about looking a little ahead
Yeah.
and going forward.
Absolutely. So I was reading this book by Peter Thiel. The book was about the book's title is Zero to One, where he was comparing technology businesses to traditional businesses and how traditional businesses have conservative value and how technology businesses, even though they are hemorrhaging money, have sky high value. And he was comparing the business of Wall Street Journal to PayPal. So in the Indian scene as well, we have traditional IT companies and we have new age companies which are coming up. So, and you mentioned about Bitcoin also. So, forecasting into the future, where uh, organized startups of today are gathering a lot of capital and they are having sky high valuations. So, any experiences that you had in the past where an organization, a company was listed on the stock exchange and had a lot of traction, but then the steam was blown off because they did not have a very robust, good business model to sustain themselves on.
So I can't take names because it will not be proper, but one which is in public knowledge
Yeah,
and which was part of the Ketan Parekh scam
yeah,
was
yeah,
DSQ software, where
yeah,
everybody thought it's a great this thing. The dot-com companies, all the
yeah, yeah,
dot-com companies, you see, a flurry of them came there, and all
yeah,
these dot-com companies nosedived. We thought the dot-com companies are going to be the future here, but
yeah,
we never realized they are going to die down very fast and quick. So,
absolutely.
so this is one classic example of
Yeah,
how, whereas a cement company which is doing years of slow business will go through a rough, tough, whatever, but
yeah,
still will survive the long run.
absolutely, absolutely, sir. Sir, owing to that, and you mentioned the name of a cement company. The youth of today is watching a very extravagant show, for the lack of a better word, which is coming on one of the platforms, which is called the Harshad Mehta scam. Any insights on that in terms of why did it happen? What was it all about? Because it is quite popular today, and it's doing something good for a lot of youths because it is helping them understand the stock market in a strange, twisted way. So, why, according to you, why did it happen? If you have any memories of that time, we'll be very curious to know about that as well.
So it's, I saw the movie on Sony Live.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
a very
yeah,
great one, very well done, and very well acted also.
yeah,
But
yeah,
let me tell you, Harshad Mehta.
yes,
Harshad Mehta knew his business.
yeah,
Apart from his greed part, he knew the deficiencies of the system and he exploited it. He knew exactly the deficiencies that were there. For example, the banking BRs, which are called,
mhm,
he knew and he leveraged and he did very well.
yeah,
And but what happened is his leverage and his overconfidence is what actually created a problem. So even when you are speculative or when you are living on borrowed money, you have to put an end somewhere.
yeah.
He did not know how to end.
Mhm.
So that is the one thing, apart from whatever the story is, his flamboyant, this thing, his Lexus car, his style, he was his swag, and also he was a star. Many brokers in that era used to copy him.
Yeah,
They used to say, "We want to become Harshad Mehta." He had a certain aura about him, and I remember very distinctly in Calcutta those days there was a seminar, and there was a very senior Reserve Bank person there, and there were somebody attended, 10 people were attending, whereas 1,000 people were flocking in to see Mr. Harshad Mehta. So his aura was that, but he
yeah,
did not know where to end. He did
yeah,
not know when to end,
yeah,
and that is one thing for everybody to learn. Where
mhm,
is the tipping point? Where should the greed end? Hmm?
yeah, yeah,
Because so that history has taught us, right from Hitler to whoever. So
yeah,
I must say Harshad Mehta used the gap of the banking system, the broking system. He knew his work. He was a master of his work,
yeah,
and he knew what to do, but he
absolutely.
just lost out the plot in the last few uh, moments of his life.
I think so. What happens is that power consumes you, and it is so addictive that you're not able to let it go. So I think
Yeah.
that's what consumed him as well. I think so. It's time to take some questions from the our viewers, and one of the questions has been posted by Indronil Dutt, And his question is a question which came in my mind also when you were discussing different facets of the financial industry. And he questions that what is your prediction of the performance of mutual fund as the months go by? Do you see that in the coming months the performance of mutual funds improving? Because in the initial months of lockdown, mutual funds were not performing. So his question is related to mutual funds. I have also read some data. I can be incorrect on that. Is that in last 2 years, most of mutual funds have not performed well, and they have started to get a bad review per se. That they're not a good investment tool. So what's your take on that, sir?
Indranil, I totally endorse your view, and I totally endorse your view that the performance of mutual fund has not been great, primarily because they were in the debt segment. You see the commercial papers, and you see, for example, their investments in DHFL, ILFS, all this had to be side pocketed, which means that revenue and that is taken out of the system. So what really happened is the mounting number of NPAs and some bad investments by some of the mutual funds, the performance has not been very good. But SIP, for example, your index fund has done reasonably well. But if you take a equity fund or a structured fund, I think you will have to choose your mutual fund very carefully, where the mutual fund is little conservative. And you have seen the Franklin Templeton fiasco itself. You have seen that. It's all visible before us. One factor that comes and most players talk of is the mutual fund people are paid very high. Okay.
The commissions are very high.
And their performances are low. So there is a general talk in the industry that I think there needs to be some little more regulation on their salaries, which should be linked to their output, because investors' money is at stake. So but government is supported. That 50,000 crore that government gave to, or announced to give to, which RBI gave it, actually held on the mutual fund. That's what I would say. And that line of credit was very, very valuable in this pandemic time to mutual funds.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. So I have the next question, and it's a short and crisp question. The question is, how do you identify a multi-bagger? What are the metrics that you can see? And it's a very speculative, the answer would be very speculative, I understand, but is there any metric to understand that what could be a future multi-bagger stock?
A very tough question, and don't hold it on to me, but a technology stock which has a future, why not?
Sure, perfect. The next question comes from Kamya Singh, and she asks that what is the best sector to invest right now?
So in just this little bit of conversation that I had with you, Utsav, that I told it is FMCG, IT.
Yes.
And these are two sectors.
That ITC has not been performing well because ITC, surprisingly, even though they have been posting decent results, it comes under the FMCG. They have other businesses also, but surprisingly has not been doing well. And a lot of investors have getting depressed because of that, because it's considered like a blue chip stock in a certain way, and it's not been doing quite well of late.
So what happens is these big stocks have these lean periods, and plus their hotel industry. Yeah. We have to understand that hotel industry has a lockdown. So though it's a separate arm by itself, but still, nevertheless, there is a little bit of pull there. But the stock is good in the long run. But I don't want to comment on a particular stock. But ITC is a stock by itself.
Absolutely. So next question, we are getting a flurry of questions now, sir. So we'll be quick in this so that we can answer as many as possible. Aryan Kumar asks us that what are the parameters we should have in our mind before investing? I think you've already answered it, but can you shed light on what as a, let's say, a 25-year-old or a 30-year-old man who has less commitments or less debts right now, what are the different investment tools that he should have in his portfolio to make it diversified?
First, he should see the industry. First and foremost, the industry. Second, he must see the track record. Third, he must see the dividend paying capacity of the of the stock. And fourth, you should see the highs and lows that it has gone through. So if you're buying a stock at a very high level, then I think you should see whether the previous highs, what are the previous highs? We should consider that, and that will be the best way to invest.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir. Next question is a very interesting question, sir. It's asked by Rakiran Ghosh. I don't know if I'm naming him correctly or not. He asks that, is it good to invest money in fixed deposits?
Fixed deposit, so is like a traditional thing where the return is not equivalent to the inflation that we have. So the inflation beats the fixed deposit. Plus there is a TDS on that. So it's also important that we don't want to pay tax and the return comes to 3%. But it depends on the liquidity of a person, depends on the further use of liquidity. Fixed deposit is a good option for 3 to 6 months to 1 year when you require liquidity. So these are things which you should, articulate within yourself before doing anything. But fixed deposit safe, that's it. But don't put it in PMC bank.
Love your sense of humor, sir. So in the next 5 minutes, sir, we'll spend on for all the students who are listening to us and who would want to make a career in this space. I know you have covered various aspects, but if we are forward looking, if you are future looking, what are the skills a student should pick up for a good career in this space, apart from, of course, chartered accountancy? I saw you are also a chartered accountant. You would have seen how the entire space has changed. So any tips to the students of today on what are the things that they should remember in terms of picking up skills to be a successful
So for example, MBA students can look at risk management. It's a great option today. Everybody requires a risk manager today. Second, look at compliance, because the compliance is going to be the vehicle which all institutions are going to depend on. So look at compliance. Third, look at IT. IT skill sets. Means how do we do something like a DISA or a CISA, where you can do security audit or security work.
Okay.
So it place, then you can sell to fund managers. Traditional banker is one thing, but being an equity analyst, being a fund manager, being a part of a alternate investment fund where you are an equity researcher. So, and also the new space in this is ARCs or stressed asset area. Very good area. It's upcoming because we are going through economic turbulence all across the globe. You will see a lot of stress asset that will happen. So this is a great area to look at.
Absolutely. Sir, Maheshwari asks, from where and how should I start or begin my career as a stock analyst? How can I begin? How can she begin or he begin his career as stock analyst? Is Maheshwari asked.
So stock analyst can go to two places, or three places. One can go to a AIF. Second, go to a broker, or go to a mutual fund. Or fourth, go to a sort of a investment group in an insurance company, the investment division. So all these are four options you will learn, but it's a very good line to take because it's highly specialized and it is going to be the future. And it's well paid also.
Yeah. So Chirag asks an interesting question and he says that taking entry in the market is easy, but how to identify when to exit the market? Because Warren Buffett has a very different strategy. He says that buy a stock to not sell, and different people across the world have different strategies. But what would be your advice as to when to exit the market?
So Warren Buffett's strategy has been good, and it has been yesterday's strategy. Today, the trick is to invest and get out. As soon as you benchmark your return. I'm getting 11%, 12% return. I'll get off. I don't look at whether I'm losing 20%. So everybody should have their own benchmark because everybody is different, and everybody does not have deep pockets like Warren Buffett has. He can
Of
hold
course.
on. Hmm?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so we can emulate him, fine, but we should be very careful. Some stocks we can take for long run, something like a Hindustan Liver or something like that, which is like class of gold. You can just wait on, but
Okay.
quick. We should know how to when to exit and have a mixed strategy. Keep something invested, something exit, some quickly exit.
Sure. Sir, Sonali asks, should we invest in infrastructure funds? Is her question. People are asking very specific questions, sir.
Um, Infrastructure is going through a absolute turmoil at this point of time. So, of course, if it's an infrastructure fund with a proper return, you should. But I don't want you to be speculative about it, because
Sure.
at this point it's going through a churn.
Absolutely. So another question, and it comes from the fact that when somebody starts investing, what are the different tools that they can use to go deep in understanding the equity market, the derivatives market, understanding the PE ratios? What are the different areas of knowledge where they can accumulate information, which can help them become a better investor?
Go to the basics. See all the ratios which are available at any place, and then take a stock and
Sure.
apply to it. And tools I won't know, because I have never used a tool myself. The best tool is common sense.
That's perfect, sir. Well, the next question is that what that's asked by Kamya is that US market elections and what would happen if will the market fall? It's a speculative question again. If Biden comes in, and what has been the impact in the last 20 years of a US election on the Indian market? I think that's a better question. Has market gone through patches, because a lot of stocks did dip on Thursday and Friday? There was a market correction for all the traders. So what is the general impact of US elections on the Indian stock market in general?
So the US stock market itself is a reflection of what is happening in US on the election front. And Indian stock markets also react to the global cues. So it does impact, but these are marginal impacts. This won't have long-term impacts at all. These are like small 3-4 days, 5 days, 10-day phenomena. And when these things settle down, everything will settle down. It is like business the next day.
Sir, Anshuman asks, can you tell us more about CFA and FRN certification?
Well, I really am not aware, I must tell you, but the certification is great. I'm not aware of the impact, but it is well recognized.
Sure.
That much I can tell you. The course itself is well recognized, and the certification is also well recognized. And it has a good job potential too.
Sure.
But I have not gone through the curriculum to make a comment on it. Sure. Honestly.
Also, I'll ask you. It's an answer which can be answered in 2 words, or it can be one paragraph or 2 paragraphs also, as to how do you see the Indian economy going for the next 5 years? Because post Corona, it has taken a huge dip, our GDP. But how do you forecast in good market conditions? Of course, pandemic improves. How do you see India performing in the next 5 years as per 2025? What would be your forecast on that?
So, two figures I will say. 24 months to revive.
Okay.
24 months to revive, and 36 months to stabilize.
Okay.
And 5 years, if everything works well, and we have handled it well, we are on the way to a strong economy.
Okay. So Raghav Behl wrote a book in 2004 where he wrote about India versus China, who will be the next superpower. And he wrote that book in foresight. Of course, we know the answer already. But do you think we'll be able to overtake China in a way? What would it take us to do that? What are the systematic economic factors that will take us to overtake China or create a growth story in what China did when Deng Xiaoping was there in 1978? He created an economic miracle in 1978. What would it take us to do that?
So we have to think long.
Sure.
So that is one thing, and all stakeholders have to get together and do it. For example, I'll give you one sectoral example: textile.
Yeah.
Textile, whatever has shed off from China has gone to Bangladesh, more or less.
Yeah.
Why could not India take it?
Yes.
Where is it? So all the stakeholders, the manufacturers, the government, the port, and the place, and the taxes, everything has to get together.
Yeah.
Similarly, I'll give you one more example, which I was a part of, was the Gift City, which we created, where all taxes for trading, etc., has been
What's the location
relaxed.
of that, sir? What is the location?
It's Gandhinagar, Ahmedabad.
Ahmedabad.
So, we have created there where today, as I told you, 50,000 crore is our daily turnover of in the segment. Okay, so this can become a capital place for financial capital if we handle it. Today we are 86th ranked Gift City, as against China, which is ranked, or Hong Kong, which is ranked 5th in terms of the. So we can, and Bombay is 46th, by the way. I may be wrong on one or two numbers here and there, but approximately this is the number. So can we? So we have a lot of catch-up game, and catch-up game can only happen if all the constituents get together and work towards a long-term 5 to 10 years vision. It is not going to happen in a hurry. That much I can assure you.
Absolutely. Sir, in the late 90s, internet was called a fad. Is something that will not sustain for a long time. And in 2012, the same was said for Bitcoin. So a lot of people have asked us questions about cryptocurrency. So India was spooked by it. Now the government's reaction towards it is changing. What is your take on how cryptocurrency would evolve over the next 5-10 years period?
So first of all, cryptocurrency has to be regulated. The most important thing is there are no regulations in India because otherwise what is happening? Unfortunately, we have a segment of financial literacy which is not really financially literate, and people will lose money like they lost in penny stocks. Yeah. So my thing is the government is in its wisdom is doing the right thing by going slow on it, because it should not start a speculative trend. And this COVID, where every penny is important for everybody, I think the regulations have to come in, and that is the first step. But I see a great future, but that will be after 3 to 5 years, not right now.
Not right now. Okay. Sir, a lot of students are asking us questions about what are the different streams that are available. I think we have sort of already answered it, but they're asking in terms of what are the different courses that they can do, which can help them advance their career in financial management space, in the finance industry space. Chartered accountancy is one, CFA can be other. But if you can list down different things of people that you met during your journey who became successful basis their educational background of their doing certain things. So what would be your list on that?
So my list is CA is there, company secretary is there, ICW is there. Then there are courses in computer which are specialized courses. Then there is MBA finance. Then there are courses on risk management. Then there is insolvency, which we can look at. Insolvency is a great course to look at, which is the NCLT process. And also look at, there are many courses on research. We should look at research courses. So I would see that you should take a specialized skill. See what is happening. We are moving towards an era of specialization, where everything is specialized. Sure. So, for example, risk management is specialized. Now, cyber security is a specialization. If one can get in, and cyber security is a great area, because absolutely, as we move forward in the digital world, cyber security is going to be the biggest threat.
Yeah. Or we are almost running out of time. We'll spend the last few minutes understanding the man himself. We'll ask some questions about you, and so that the viewers can know more about you. Any one incident which is like a very happy memory from your past of your career, maybe as a chairman of the Bombay Stock Exchange or in your early days also, which you can share with everybody, like a happy memory which you still remember to this day.
So coming to my career, when I passed my CA, I was very happy because I had come from a small place, Jabalpur. and
Sure.
I did not have coaching classes there. So,
Sure.
and I was handicapped by, because I was a science graduate.
Sure.
So, and I had done zoology, botany. I had no idea of commerce. And so that was one great thing which I feel
And at
that
that
I,
time, when you had to stick to your career, generally at that time, what you start doing, you end up doing that. So it was a very interesting thing that you could switch also. Yes, sir. Please
yeah.
continue.
So
Yeah.
the second thing is when I became the Bombay Stock Exchange chairman,
Yeah.
because I was not interested in it honestly,
Oh.
and I must say that all my board members and Mr. Ashish Chauhan and a few of my friends in the night told me you should become, or in the morning told me to become. Otherwise, I was not interested. But
And when
I
did
was
that sink in,
also
sir? When did that sink in? The feeling that like you have taken that position now. When did
No,
that sink?
I'm not. I believe in Vivekananda. I'm not elated by anything, any achievement, because with any achievement you get a responsibility. So I feel, the responsibility, the feeling of success is very short-lived. What is
Yeah.
more important is your responsibility, and that's what I. But listing the Bombay Stock Exchange and
Perfect.
the spirit in which it was listed. And I remember at 2 o'clock in the morning, officials from the Bombay Stock Exchange at 2 o'clock and came to home to get all the papers signed. That was 2 o'clock in the morning. It was winter, and this guy did not even have a sweater. So
Mhm.
that was the spirit which I saw of Bombay Stock Exchange. So
Sure.
that really, and then few more instances which really I can say that, you know when I got my when I got my first big audits, and when I
Yeah.
had small successes, these were
Yeah.
all my moments of pride which I have, and which I preserve it till date. But I will say I'm quite contented on whatever I did, and
Mhm.
I'm happy with that. So some good memories only.
Absolutely. And so anything that you would want to say to the 25-year-old S. Ravi who's out there listening to you on a Facebook Live, who has a phone in his hand now and has access to technology as well? What would be your advice to all the 25-year-olds out there, including you, of your past? Anything that you would like to, as a message again, you would like to share with everybody?
So I wish I had enjoyed a little more of my youth rather than studying too much. And I wish I had gone to places which the 25-year-old should have gone. But then the chartered accountancy exam is such that you are bogged down, and then you get into your profession. So that is one thing that I deeply but I enjoyed my college. I enjoyed my hostel, and that's one thing that I really enjoyed. And
Okay.
then I got into my work, and then we became very serious. The humor has disappeared. I would like to have more humor in SRV.
Okay, perfect, sir. So is does the financial world take the humor out of you, or is it in general it is dependent on a personality of a person, because it's so cutthroat and it's so out there where you're talking about numbers the entire day, and it's in a way stressful as well, right? So how can students handle stress? Whosoever is aiming to enter this industry, because it's a lot of stress is also generally associated with it when you do things like this because of the new compliances about GST, about again different compliances that keep you need to be constantly updated. How can students handle stress? Anything
So,
that you would advise on that?
the only way to handle stress is to forget at a particular point what has happened throughout the day. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are, sir. You are.
So suppose at 8 o'clock in the evening, watch a movie, watch something different, change your this thing, like changing the channel, change yourself, do something different, listen to some good music. So that is the only way to handle stress, because life is full of stress. Life is full of challenges, and these
Absolutely.
challenges can be only overcome by deviating or diverting yourself from whatever is the pain point, and sleep well.
Absolutely.
More important.
And sir, considering we are almost out of time, one last question, and that question is possibly from the entire everybody who was listening out there, is that if there is one piece of last advice that you would want to give for anybody who wants to get successful, because it was a career centric conversation that we had. We started from you covering the entire spectrum of the financial industry. Then we dug deep in the investment space, the career space. One last message that you would want to give for anybody who wants to have a successful career in the financial industry, what would that be? Ideally, if it can be an elaborate answer, we'd love that for the next 2-3 minutes, and then we'll end the session.
Sure. First, everybody has to understand themselves. What is their skill set? Will you get into something which you don't like? So please see what your likes and dislikes are, first and foremost. Because if there is passion, there is growth. And that is the most important aspect. Second, start well. Don't join an organization just because you have to join an organization. Join an organization which is meaningful, even if it is 2 steps lower, but join an organization where you will learn. Don't go for a position, but go for the work that you're going to do. That is what is going to take you further. Third, choose your, don't get competitive with your own peers. Let me tell you, don't start comparing with, and the worst mistake everybody does. He has done well, I have not done well. You never know how life evens out with anybody. So I think the most important aspect is don't compare yourself. Stick to your strength. Do what your skill sets are. Be passionate about it and make the right moves. Think right and move forward.
Perfect. Thank you so much, sir. I think from this session, if I take out one thing, is the humbleness with which you said that when I was told that you were given the opportunity to become the chairman, you didn't want it. I think that's something that all of us today can learn from that. And with this, I think we come to the end of today's session. Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable time. We are really humbled and learned a lot of things from today's session. And we look forward to hopefully meeting you again someday soon. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity. And I must also thank my the MD of BSC who helped me, because I was not Mr. Ashish Chauhan. I was not conversant with the stock market, and he really helped me during that period to sort of learn a few nuances. So many people have taught me many things. And today I'm learned from all these questions, and I'm learning that I'm understanding the aspirations of people. So it's a great learning for me too. Thank you so much for this lovely interaction.
The oxymoron of a financial conversation being interesting was not present today. It was truly a very insightful and interesting conversation. We hope to speak with you very soon again with more deeper questions, possibly more time at our hand. Till then, sir, thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Take care, all of you. Be safe.